Earlier I and there's many others on YouTube that have talked about the ridiculous price hike. Even Angry Joe had to clip out the ending of him and Alex and Angry Joe's reaction to the Switch 2 direct hour-long presentation. Mostly the ending of it when they looked up the price point, because the one thing they never talked about was the price. But according to all the listings, whether this is a joke or whether this is misinformation, miscommunication, or somebody, as I said in my video, got into their files, into the system, basically the MSRP price tag right now, it's not official, but right now, for the Nintendo Switch 2, just the basic console, nothing else, just the basic console, is $449.95. $449.99. Basically $450. And the bundle, which includes the digital version of Mario Kart World, is basically $500, $499.99. Now, you could say, okay, you can understand maybe the price point there and everything because of the power and all that. People will bring up that excuse that it's to make up all the expenses they had to, utilize to bring, to bring this console to life, to make it a reality, right? All the components, the power and all that's fine. But when it got to the games, people were thinking, well, they'll probably stay the same, right? Like the highest they'll go is $70, right? Had no idea that one of the first games exclusive for the Switch 2, the Mario Kart World, would be priced digitally at $80 and physically at $90. And it's like, what's going on here? Like, we understand, gaming, we understand game publishers doing special editions, if you will. Doing special editions for, games. Like WWE 2K25, it's not one, not two, but three different versions. They got the standard, they got the Dead Man version, and they got the Island, the Bloodline version. And the Bloodline version is basically the one that's $100. So we can understand pricing something at $100 if it's going to include everything that you would have to pay for separately if you just got the standard version or the Dead Man version. So that's understandable. It's very understandable. But with that said, that's only, that should only be, equivalent. That should only be for those specialized editions, right? Not for a regular game, but, digital or physical. But that's what Nintendo is doing, and people are wondering what the heck is going on, and they're not happy about it. Look, everybody's happy about the Switch and Switch 2, and they might go out and get it, but they're not happy about the price tag. In fact, what's going to happen is they're going to do what a lot of people did when it came to the PS5. They're going to buy the system, and then they're just going to use that PS5 to get free upgrades to their PS4 to PS5 editions. Their games, that is. They're going to get free upgrades of their PS4 games to PS5 editions. Because that's what a gaming company is supposed to do. They're supposed to give you free upgrades to the next gen console version of the same game. Nintendo coming out and saying, oh, well, we're going to do that too, but you got to pay for it. So in other words, if you have a game like this, you got to pay basically for an upgrade on that. You got to upgrade to a pack and all that. And it's like, that's not how you do anything. That's not how you do business, especially with a new console. You want to keep customers, not drive them away. But again, it's the price point people are looking at when it comes to the, basically the same size game. I'm going to open this up for a second. The same size game there, but just colored red. They're looking at that as well as the digital version of said game. Digital version of said game, which is like, for example, something like this. They're looking at the fact that Nintendo is going out of the way in charging basically an arm and a leg for these games digitally and physically. If you want the equivalent of how much one game cost, compared to any other media, look at here. So we have Transformers 1, on 4K, Rise of the Beast on 4K, and the 30th anniversary edition of the movie, right? The anniversary edition of the movie, the 4K version. Well, you're probably wondering why I brought those out. It's real simple. It's real simple. Basically, from retail price right off the bat, these, along with other 4Ks, are priced around as soon as they're released, around $29.95. So, round that up to 30 each, right? So you're looking at the equivalent of $90, which means 3 of these 4Ks, or 3 of any 4Ks, especially newly released 4Ks, of movies and such, 3 of them equal basically the same amount of the same price tag as one Switch 2 game, as basically the Mario Kart World game individually, physically or digitally. And that's saying something. Now, even if they go down in price, or you just go, let's say, for the Blu-ray version, which is like $24.95, $5 less, guess what? You get these when they're down in price to, let's say, $25 each, or you go and get the Blu-ray version, which is $25. You know what you're looking at? You're looking at 3 of them at a total price tag of $75, $5 less than one digital version of a Switch 2 game, and $15 less than the physical version of the same game. That is crazy. That is crazy. Now, I'm not saying you won't get value out of that, out of the money you spend on said game, but still, you're basically paying, essentially for 3 4Ks, if you will. You're essentially paying for 3 4Ks here, when it comes to one, physical, version of a Nintendo Switch 2 game. And you're paying essentially, from a Blu-ray perspective, you're paying $5 less and $15 less digitally. That's crazy. And that's why people are mad, because they're looking at the fact that they could spend the same amount of money for 3 4Ks that would equal to the $90 for one Nintendo physical Switch 2 game, that is, and they could spend $75 on 3 of them, which would be $5 less than one digital version of the game and $15 less than the physical game. That is ridiculous. And that's why they're upset. It's like, you need to not raise the price. I mean, look at this. This is my Transformers G1 Complete Series. This cost me, when I got it, about $50, I think, on average. $50. When it first came out, it was like $60. That's like $20, $30, $40 less, than what the, Nintendo's charging for a Switch 2, and, digitally and physically. That's crazy. And again, that's why people are upset. So anyway, I just wanted to come on here and show you, comparison-wise, how much one Switch 2 game, physical and digital, how much it cost when you compare it to what you'd be paying, in other media, that would equal the same price. But let me know what your thoughts are. Give me your thoughts on everything, and do you agree with what I had to say here and showcase as an example?